Hey guys, I'm sorry, I had to stop recording, but anyways, as I was saying, they found out that Isolde's mother had orchestrated assassination attempts on Leia's life. And Isolde's, of course, furious by this. And he finds out that his mother had killed multiple of his relatives, which angers him even more so. And honestly, I don't like her. I don't like her. Because she actually, and I know later on, she ends up killing Tenennial. But there are several mentions to what happens in this book in Wild Power. Like the ability Touch of the Kindred, which allows the Night Sisters to climb on. Well, the Kindred is a spider that's native to Dathomir. And if Night Sisters use that ability, they can crawl on walls and ceilings like spiders. But the book, Wild Power, says scramble up a rocky surface. But in the book, they're crawling on rocks. And if they use their magic with anger, it will cause a bruise or a blood vessel to burst under their skin, especially on their face. And that's in the book too. And with the Kuan-Thor, it crashed on Dathomir several hundred years prior to the Clone Wars. The Battle of Yavin, I should say, to be more precise. And the Jedi, including Yoda, tried to get it back, but they were repulsed by the witches. Yoda gave the records of the ship to a Singing Mountain Clan member named Rel. And Rel gave those to Luke to use to train with his academy, like to start up his school for Jedi. And Talzin mentions the Kuan-Thor in Wild Power, but she told a fabricated version of the story. She said that the Jedi tried to get it back, but they could not match the strength of the Night Sisters, and even Yoda had abandoned the prize and fled. But Luke actually writes in an annotation aside that passage, saying that he had heard the story differently. He says, I heard the story from Rel that said there had been a settlement negotiated between the witches and the Jedi. And Mother Rel was most definitely not a Night Sister. So yeah, it's like a game of telephone. But in the end, we see Han and Leia get married and it all works out. And there are some funny moments between Han and Isolde in this book. And of course, it's the classic guys competing for a girl. There's one guy who's rich, and so the other guy tries to see what he can offer. It's essentially a thing measuring contest between them. But Leia chooses Han. I knew she would, because they're meant for each other. And all works out. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and there were just some funny moments in general. Tenennial flat out says to Isolde that he doesn't know how to cook, because he had prepared eggs for them, and they were rubbery. And Tenennial refuses to eat it, because she says, you don't know how to cook. And we get introduced to what's called a woofa worm. These worms have very thick hides, and they are extremely long. They are 240 meters in length. And Han pulls one out of the ground by himself, and it took him an hour to pull it out. Because it would thrash around, it would have to be held, and then once it lost its energy, Han would keep pulling, and then once it regained its energy, it would start thrashing again, and the process would have to repeat until he got it out, which took place over the course of an hour. So that'd be a pain in the ass. But woofa worms have a revitalization feature where that allows them to regrow, like from injuries, even though their hide is very thick, because the Night Sisters have an ability called revitalization of the woofa, which allows them to temporarily regain the essence of youth, or if one's will is strong enough, it allows them to regrow a limb. Now, Talzin, she does tend to exaggerate about things, but when it comes to actual abilities, she's not lying about, she is not lying about that. Because there are some Night Sisters who would most definitely have a strong enough will to regrow a limb. But yeah, I'm really glad that I got to read this book. I blew through it in, I finished it yesterday, I think. So it only took me the course of 6 days to read, or a standard calendar week. But I'm glad that I got to read it. And I cannot wait for my next book that I'm going to be reading, which you guys will see soon. And I cannot wait to review that book with you guys. Now, I will say, I'm not going to review every Star Wars book I've read, because there's too many of them for that. But yeah, I loved this book. I had been waiting since September to read it, and now I finally got to. I am so happy. But yeah, that's all for this time. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.